I was singing. I had a few songs come up, so I want to put those on loop first. One was I had a memory of when I was younger dancing and singing to Ricky Martin's. Uh, I don't know. I don't think it's "Living the Vida Loca," but I think it's something to that nature. I don't know the name of the song, but that song, right? It goes like being pulled inside out, like talking about a love that's really dramatic because he's like dancing. I think it's the same song, but it could be two different songs. Dancing in the rain. It was pretty dramatic about like being torn inside and out, but then it's not dramatic because that's how some relationships can be at times, specifically when they are highlighting some of your deepest wounds, right? Karmic wounds from this lifetime, from previous lifetimes, and then just from things that you're navigating. So this year felt like a lot of endings because it was the year of the nine. It was shedding, it was showing you what could be, what was, and then kind of going in between two dimensions, right? It's like I'm here, but I'm not here. I feel love, but then I don't feel love, right? There was a lot of polarity this year, right? Red, blue. And for some of you specifically, I'm seeing the letter H is coming up. So if your name is H or someone with the H, that could be significant. I'm also feeling like my heart chakra just feels pressure. So this year felt like a lot of pressure that like pushes out and then makes a diamond, right? But that takes a lot of time to do in order to make the actual diamond, right? But again, people search the world for diamonds and do a lot of crazy things to obtain diamonds to give for love or gifts or whatever it is, right? This is obsession, human obsession with magical things or pretty things, and we do know that like gemstones everyone holds different powers or energies that you could connect to from the earth. And it felt like this year specifically, I'm seeing the number 3, 6. So 3 is collective or, community. 6 is balance. If you do 3 and 6, that's a 9. So again, we echoing that endings. It could have been endings within community or trying to balance things out within community in order to reach enlightenment. Another song that I kept hearing was, and I don't remember the song, it just goes like, get higher baby, and then it just goes again, get higher baby, and then get higher baby, right? So that to me is telling me that spirit is really like making or putting all this pressure on you in order for you to expand and get higher and higher and higher in terms of yourself and your ascension, essentially. So this year was about, I was going to say ascension, but I also heard obsession. So it could have been some of you were obsessive with certain situations in your life where there was like patterns that were coming up within your life that made you feel obsessive, either with a person or a situation, or even a pattern within your own self. So that's a polarity, right? You have ascension where to a degree, at some point, you feel calm, and then there's this polarity of feeling obsessive, but that's also just being human, a spirit in the human experience, where you're going from, this is what I should do because this is what spiritual people or whatever they say is the path. And then there's these parts where it's like, oh, well, I feel obsessive and explosive, so how can I be over here if I'm over here? And Spirit is saying it's not supposed to be here or here. It's supposed to be here. And then sometimes you're going to go here and here and here and here and here and here and here, because that's just life. We're here to understand whatever our soul lessons are and to achieve those to our best degree. And then for some people, it's to not achieve them. Like that's a real thing, to not achieve it, to learn that lesson, right? Because if we're thinking about reincarnation and past lives and things like that, or future lives, even though it's all happening at one point, that's why it feels so real in our body, it's visceral. Maybe in a previous life, or another dimension, whatever. Someone was a king, for example, right? And they were like, they achieved everything that they could, and maybe they were dissatisfied in that lifetime. So in this lifetime, they don't achieve something, right? But then they find the lesson was to sit with dissatisfaction. So then they're they're not satisfied with that either. But there's that still lesson, right? And it gives you the yin side of it and the yang side of it in order to understand that whole experience. Now, we don't have to understand that to that level because we're human and our soul knows, though, right? I think that this year also there was a lot of soul knowing things, like a lot of parts from other lives connecting or starting to, like next year, and I'll get into that next week, is about finding those pieces and starting to now move them closer together. That's something that's coming through. I'm gonna just get into the cards now because that felt really strong. And as I was calling in the four directions, I was feeling such a strong ancestral energy around all of us. So I pulled 2 ancestral cards and they both are wearing red. I'll show them to you real quick. So we have on the first one, and this, what I asked was like, what was the lesson, the overall lesson of the year, and what would our ancestors want us to know? Both of these cards have red in them, right? And I'm wearing red. So red is all about survival, and some people say it's from 0 to 7, the age. So what came into form at that time, what patterns were there? So a lot of those were triggered, you know, and in these cards, they're from around the world. So it shows me that you have been around the block spiritually, hopefully. I'm just kidding, whatever you want. And this brought in laughter. This one says laughter and fun, right? So it's 5 people and they're laughing, and it says positive energy, smile, and joyfulness. Now, because there's 5, that tells me that there was a lot of change this year, and difficult change, because change can be difficult for certain people and for a majority of people because we're human and we don't know, right? In the back, there was a bridge, right? It's going from one side to the other, and there's water in between, right? So that's earth and water. This year felt a lot of emotions, and the water's a little bit dirty there. So there was a lot of cleansing of the unconscious, the subconscious, in order for there to be change with the 5, in order to eventually have fun and laughter and smile more. So this year really rocked a lot of you all, rocked you, and it brought up these instinctive parts of you, this like survival, I'm gonna die energy, okay? Now, with that, and with all the mountains here, you know, mountains are hard to climb. They're difficult. When we see the hermit in tarot going off, they're going on a journey, and that's what a mountain represents. But it also represents being strong and resilient, you know. And as I'm saying that, I'm just like feeling all this like this movement in my system. So there's a lot of things that were moved this year, but at the same time, with all that coming up and feeling all that journey, it's tiring, right? So Spirit is saying this was necessary. It was a bridge in order for you to move into the new year, into the new part of you and the new evolution. And with the 5, they're like, you know, this year some of you could have thought something was going to go one way and it went a completely different way, and that was a part of the plan. That was a part of your soul's plan. But with the laugh and have fun, that's telling me that Spirit also is wanting you to like think about this year, but also find the moments of silence and the moments of fun that you were able to find, or happiness. And if you can hold on to those gemstones and know, like, damn, this diamond was created from all of this, but there was also a lot of smiles, and at the end of the day, I have these diamonds to show for it. And that's what it feels like for your soul. You have these lessons that were turned into, gemstones or diamonds from the earth, from the natural elements, and that's a really beautiful thing. And as I feel it, I could feel like a lot of emotion. So like some of you could have lost people this year or animals this year that you really loved, and that was hard. But it was almost like they were trigger points for you to go into your unconscious to understand what the fuck was going on there. In a weird way, it is a part of your prayer. And I don't mean that in a religious way, but it's a part of that manifestation. Sometimes we have contracts with other people, with other animals, to do certain things at certain points in order for us to reach the lesson, whatever that is for our soul and for that other person or animal soul. So that's the thing. We can't hold the grief, but what you can hold is the memories. The memories. The grief will be there. It's gonna ebb and it's gonna flow. That's just life. It's like water. It flows, and sometimes it doesn't, and it's heavy, right? So are we in dark waters or are we in clear waters? Are we in mixed waters? So that's what Spirit wanted to talk about, that, but definitely addressing grief here. There's a lot of grief that was felt collectively, but also within family, within relationships was a big thing too. Relationships really shifted this year. Some people completely left relationships, others had issues, others, fully moved forward. So I think that's a really beautiful thing. And then also our spirit guides are over here saying like, not everything is that serious. Like sometimes you just have to laugh, Okay, and then we have courage. So this is the other card, and they're wearing all red here with a little bit of blue. So throat. But these three people are ready. Like they're walking into wherever they're walking and they're not looking back. I think that's even a sword or something. Maybe a stick. I don't know. But they have their weapons and they're walking. There's 3 here. So we go from a 5 to a 3. 5 change. 3 community, right? 3, it could be a higher consciousness too. And then it also is showcasing 3 plus 5 equals 8. 8 is abundance, 8 is karmic, okay? This was karmic. So it says strength, warrior, fearlessness. So these people are like ready because they know their purpose, right? We have a blue sky in the background, right? It's clear. In both of the cards, the skies were clear, right? So Spirit is saying whatever's happening in your life or happened in your life this year, the sky is still blue and the sky is still there. And that is an ancestor. The sky is an ancestor. So you're always supported even when you feel unsupported. Even if you didn't have community, it looks to me that the spiritual team was there walking behind you, right? Like I'm walking forward, and I feel alone, right? But there's 4 people behind me, and maybe I can't see them, but I can feel them or hear them, or see them in my third eye. So Spirit is saying you've been through all this. You can be fearless. You can walk now. And as I say that, my chest and my throat's getting all messed up. But you can walk now with like clear voice, with a clear purpose, because regardless of what happens in your life, regardless of what happens next year, the sun is always going to be there even if you can't see it. And the stars are always there even if you can't see them. Wow, there's just like a lot of grief in this collective. I just feels like a lot of people who I could literally feel tears. So people who lost people this year. Okay, so the sign, and we have some definitely some ancestors coming through. We have a father coming through. We have possibly a grandfather coming through as well. Father, grandfather feels like masculine energy for the most part, and that doesn't mean gender, but there's some, there's also a lineage, like the lineage of men could have been triggered, the lineage of the masculines could have been triggered in order to be warriors, right? Your ancestors wanted you to go through these things this year in order to understand what community was, what it wasn't, how to be strong within yourself, how to navigate certain situations, how to be better at communicating, how to be better at surviving to a certain degree. And yeah, again, there could have been some masculines that passed away this year. So again, going back to that, and then I feel animals strongly here. Also, possibly an aunt or a grandma could have passed away this year, or an aunt and a grandma are coming. Oof, so heavy, grief. Are coming forward. So there's a lot of energy here, and what they're really trying to say is, again, if you can't see the sun, it's still there. If you can't see a star, it's still there. If you can't see a planet, it's still there, right? We know that there's multiple universes, but we can't see them. But that doesn't mean they're not there. And all these people who have passed away and all the ancestors who are just coming forth anyway, at this time or this year, they're saying, well, we're still here. Just the form has transformed. And some of you needed to hear that. Some of you need to hear that they're still there, guiding you forward. So those are those cards. I'm going to just pick maybe one more card and then close out. Ooh, there's a lot of grief. So with that grief, we're going to want to move it out of your system. And that can just be crying, that can be remembering, that could be laughing, that could be dancing, that can be remembering a memory that is precious to you, that could be journaling, that could be getting energy work, it could be getting Reiki, that could be getting past life. You know, like there's just so many things that can help move that energy out of you, but some of the best things are physical sometimes, and sometimes meditation too, but physical movement can help really move it out of your body because we are human, right? If some of you have been going through a lot of grief, the biggest thing Spirit is saying, it's time to deal with it. Like it's time to actually move through it. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that like it's time to see what's there. And when you're ready, what Spirit is saying, you're getting ready, you're kind of ready, would be a good time to really navigate that and getting the help and community that you need in order to process some of that. Some of it's about people who passed, some about it is about relationships that you're never going to have. And then others is just about like grieving old versions of yourself and grieving old parts of a relationship, which also I'm hearing that song, Love is a Battlefield, right? Love is a battlefield. You know, I mean, this collective is pretty dramatic because the song choices are interesting. Navigating some of that. And that also tells me that if you are old souls or some of you grew up in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, or had relationships in the 80s or 90s. For some of you, at least maybe just like one or two of you, I think two of you, there's like a relationship you could have had in the 90s or 80s, but I'm hearing 90s that could have been significant and still needs some healing there. Some of you could have lost someone who was a partner, but wasn't a partner currently, and they passed away. There's a lot there, Spirit is saying, that still needs to be uncovered, still needs to be felt, and you could have felt like love was a battlefield, like the song. But there was love there, you know. It's just trauma can really change people, you know. And if you don't have a foundation, which most people don't have, but some people do have a foundation where you are supported, where you actually have, you know, a system that's not against you, you can see a lot of souls lost to that, and that's devastating. So keeping that in mind is important. The final, I was gonna say the final song, but I meant to say the final card. There's another song that's coming up called Surrender, and it goes like, I surrender, now I am yours, now I am yours. So where do you need to surrender to yourself? Where do you need to surrender to the past? Where do you need to surrender to your grief? And where do you need to surrender to your partner if you have one? If you don't have one, how can you surrender yourself to not worrying about finding someone yet, or if you're single, or if you're dating someone, maybe it's time to surrender to a connection you kind of feel. And as I say that, I have little chills. And then it says divine order, right? So if you're dating someone and you're feeling something toward the person, maybe it's intense, why not surrender to what is being presented? You don't have to logically know everything. We have past lives, we have things that science can't explain. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is trust yourself and not really go into the mind or go into other people's perceptions, because that can really affect a connection, So the last card to move forward is surrender. Okay, we have Ganesha here, and Ganesha is literally eyes closed, laying down on like grass in nature. Some of you need to go into nature. He's holding a lotus flower, and lotus flower is about transformation, right? But he's just sleeping. He's laying on the earth to get grounded and just relaxing. And I think a lot of that is what spirit would like. They want you to rest. They want you to not think about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, what happened the last year, what happened in the last week, what happened the last hour. They just want it to be like given to the earth, which is our ancestor, our love, our mother, and come back to self, right? They have their eyes closed. They're not just resting because they're resting, but then their head, their aura is yellow, and yellow is about confidence and drive and energy. So a lot of you, if you don't feel like you have energy, it's because you need the rest. Clearly, if you're going through like fucking 10 past lives, naturally you're gonna need to rest. Like, that's not like it's not normal. That's not, everyone doesn't go through that. So naturally you need to rest more than the average person. We have pineapple here, right? So pineapple and maybe grapes, and grapes are abundance. It's New Year's Eve. Some people are gonna have those grapes. That's abundance. There's fruit here. There's a little pet sitting by its side, right? So you have everything that you need here in this card, and you're going through this huge transformation. So it's time for you to surrender to something different this time. And if this is pertaining to love, then surrender to that connection the best that you can. If this is about family or friendship, surrender to the best of your ability. But I'm talking about being whole within yourself and actually coming from a place of groundedness, not a place of anxiety. That's a very different energy. This card I pulled from the beginning, so that's the only one for love specifically. It's 2 here. So we have 2 and 2, which tells me a lot of you have connected with your person, if not already, in the spirit world. And if not officially, there's something there. There's something here that you're ignoring. Some of you are ignoring. And it's like, when will you surrender to this connection? When will you surrender to your knowing? It says practice patience. So some of you, whether you're single or in a relationship, if you're single, this year was about practicing patience and coming back online, right? The sacred geometry is lit up. Coming back in line, finding that wholeness. This is a rainbow here, so it could be LGBT, it could be, whatever. but those parts are coming back to you. So maybe you need to practice patience within love, and now it's activating something that you have in the last 2 months, maybe 4 months at most. You're now really calling in this new energy. For others of you who are in relationships, this is about the same thing, essentially. The last 2 to 4 months could have been really transformative in your relationship, and it really brought pieces back to you, back to the other person, in order for the connection to finally be highlighted. Okay, everything happens for a reason at the time that it has to happen. And you needed to practice a lot of patience, and they're still asking you to surrender and to practice a little bit more patience in order for this to fully unfold the way that it needs to unfold, not the way that your mind tells you that it needs to unfold. You can't put a definition or a word or anything to love, to friendship, to relationships, platonic and spiritual, or even, love relationships. You can't put a definition on them. You can't fit them into a box because every single person is differently. So I hope this is going to help you, and I wish you all the best.